Hello, hello, wow. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I know it's only 8:30, so shout out to you all for being here. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have some coffee or, yeah. Thank you all for being here. So yes, hello, my name is Ben Crook. Thank you for having me, ASLO. I am privileged to be presenting work in front of you all. I've been working for the past 3 years with the NASA Goddard Oceanography Lab called the Spatial and Temporal Characterization of Cyanobacteria blooms in the Mississippi Sound and their relationship to the Bonnet Carré Spillway openings. And that picture on the bottom left there is actually showing Bonnet Carré Spillway, which is a flood control structure that periodically opens up to allow, during severe flood events, to partially divert water from the Mississippi River into New Orleans, away from New Orleans into Lake Pontchartrain. So, for background, in 2019, that was the second wettest year in the contiguous United States for precipitation in terms of a total of 883 millimeters of rain. There's only 4.5 millimeters less than the wettest year in 1973. And because of this, because of how much water is on that watershed coming down, the Bonnet Carré Spillway was actually forced to open for the first time twice in 1 year in history. And following that opening of the flood spillway, one of the 25 beach closures were temporarily closed in the coastal Louisiana Mississippi Sound region and the beaches as well. So this is our objectives and approach. So we first want to determine if NASA's Ocean Color Standard Cyanobacteria Index can track this 2019 coastal Louisiana cyanobacteria. And we use daily, weekly, and monthly frequency maps to do that. And then we wanted to see with in situ data and couple that with beach advisories, river discharge, salinity, model wind speed and direction, and over time just study the conditions leading to the cyanobacteria bloom. And these two images right here, the first one is a true color image, and then this is our cyanobacteria index applied to it. And you can see the color bar here. Basically anything in gray is below detection. And this color bar is based on the World Health Organization thresholds for recreational exposure to cyanobacteria harmful algal blooms. And so we go from purple and blue, which are okay, and then we get into some serious danger and harm. We go from green to red. This is our study area that we looked at, and there's a lot going on here. But I want to divert your attention to the Bonnet Carré Spillway, which is highlighted in blue right there. And this doesn't always open up, but when it does, because of flooded events, that water ends up going into the Pontchartrain right there, and then may spill out into the rivulets into Lake Borneo. I also want to highlight that all of our in situ data, specifically our beach. Let me see if I can use this laser. So this is our beach monitoring stations right here. We have our salinity stations right here, and then the red circles are our wind data, and then we have these upstream purple diamonds that are showing where our river discharge data is coming from. Okay, so our first results. These are weekly composites of the cyanobacteria index being applied. And again, this is the color bar on the bottom here, so the World Health Organization threshold for cyanobacteria. Gray is below detection. Vigilance from purple to blue is not that bad, and then we start getting into some danger and more serious harm when we go from green to red on the bottom there. And specifically from April 21st, we don't really see much. There's actually that really tiny, where's my laser? Okay, the laser's not working. But basically like that super tiny region right there. Okay, well anyways, so all of this, basically there's not much happening right here until we get to May 26th and June 1st week, and we see that there's actually a little bit of a bloom in Lake Pontchartrain starting to happen, and there's really no evidence of a bloom before that, and so I'm actually going to show us the heart of where all this cyanobacteria starts to really happen. And so from June 2nd to June 8th, we see a much more greater amount of cyanobacteria flowing into Lake Pontchartrain, and then it starts flowing out into Lake Borneo from starting right around June, and then we actually see the highest frequency of cyanobacteria in that Lake Borgne region from June 16th to the 22nd, right there in that really concentrated red region. And then we also see that again from June 3rd to July 6th. And something else that I want to just really highlight is that notice how just all of the cyanobacteria is really just being enclosed in this one single location for a really long amount of time. And it's not really like dissipating out, it's not really flowing out, it's really just kind of almost being kind of trapped in this whole region right here. And there's a lot of cyanobacteria in Lake Pontchartrain for a lot of this time, but it's kind of dissipating out as time goes on. And so both of these blooms that we saw, one in the Brighton Sound region and one in the Lake Pontchartrain region, they were both infected into the Mississippi Sound 6 weeks before the beaches were closed. And I want to just highlight how where we can actually see these cyanobacteria along those beaches. And so if you look, oh, there we go. Yes, okay, perfect. Yeah, so right here, you can see all of that cyanobacteria along that coastline right there, and then right here too, and right here too. And so those are all really pointing to how we can actually track, this like, cyanobacteria that's living in fresh water is now actually in this coastal system right here, which is pretty insane. And so we actually see the highest amount of cyanobacteria on the coast from June 16th to July 6th. And we don't really see much else of it later on along that coastline right there until we get to like the beginning of August. And so using our beach monitoring stations, we can actually see through data that over time, from west to east, almost each beach monitoring station issued an extensive water advisory, with the most west station issued an advisory first. And then slowly over time, each station issued a water advisory like a few consecutive days afterwards, basically indicating that the cyanobacteria would travel from west to east within this Mississippi Sound region. Moving on to our river discharge and salinity data, we have just, I'm just going to call them A, B, and C rivers right there in the yellow. And then we have our salinity data in S10 and S6. And based on that salinity data first, from March to mid-July 2019, salinity was consistently near zero, indicating high levels of fresh water. And then if we look at our US river discharge data, you see these like blue peaks right here, indicating a lot of freshwater input starting in 2018, at the end of 2018. And then these black lines right here are showing the river discharge for 2019. All basically just point to that river discharge was much higher than average that year because of all the amount of precipitation coming through this whole system into this coastal system right here, which led to the Bonnet Carré Spillway opening twice. Looking at our wind data shown in these red two circles right here. I'm going to zoom on them again. And based on some wind erosives that we were able to plot, from, again, similar to the salinity, from March to July 2019, winds were predominantly northwestward, preventing the flushing preventing the cyanobacteria group from flushing out into the Mississippi Shelf. And so these Bonnet Carré Spillway floodwaters almost seem to create a buoyancy-driven flow out of Lake Pontchartrain into Lake Borgne, but then kept it contained within the Mississippi Sound. And the synergy of wind, buoyancy-driven flows converted this Mississippi River Sound estuary into a semi-enclosed lake for several months. So, in summary, 2 blooms in 2019. The first formed in 2019, in March 2019, around the Brighton Sound region, and then a second one formed mid-May after the second opening of the Bonnet Carré Spillway in Lake Pontchartrain. Both were advected into the Mississippi Sound and likely contributed to the 3-month-long beach water advisories of 2019 along that Mississippi coastline. Secondly, the formation of cyanohats within the Mississippi Sound due to these Bonnet Carré Spillway openings is dependable on a lot of different things, including winds, temperature, freshwater inflow, salinity, and temperature. And then finally, this work highlights the need for improved multi-state, multidisciplinary, continuous monitoring of these monitoring programs that integrate all of these biogeochemical sampling, biogeochemical sampling, hydrodynamic measurements, satellite imagery, and circulation models. And then finally, looking forward, climate change has been increasing the number of high-intensity rainfall events in the US just because climate change is making weather events more extreme. And because of this, flooding is not only a big concern in coastal Louisiana, but other places too that are getting more and more precipitation. So globally, results presented here set a stage for further research as to how the use of ocean color imagery and in situ data, specifically from wind, salinity, water temperature, and high resolution circulation models, can be used for monitoring and forecasting of cyanobacteria harmful algal blooms in this region and others hopefully. And then lastly, I just want to thank the NASA Goddard Ocean Ecology staff and my mentor specifically for helping me support me through all of this. And I'm especially grateful for the John Mather Nobel Scholarship Program for allowing me funds to come here and present this work in front of you all. Our research of this work is hopefully going to get published in Harmful Algae next month. So I'm really happy to talk about this more in depth with anyone over drinks later or coffee later. And I will use the remainder of my time for questions. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Benjamin? Yeah? Wait for the microphone, please.
Yeah, two questions. One, your salinity data, was that surface graph samples or is that integrated water column? And then secondly, do you know what species of cyanos you were dealing with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do not know off the top of my head either of those questions, but I would love to, we can talk about that more later. Yeah.
Yep.
That was great. I'm just curious how the timing of that corresponded to the duration of the high flows. Did it, because I know that the longest high flow on record, so it lasted into July, so I'm curious sort of what was the timing of the end of the bloom versus the sort of high flow from the river?
Yeah, okay. So you're asking about just the timing when it happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to, so you're talking about the discharge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I went too far. Yeah, I think, so, as you can see, I mean, we didn't really get into like the very, very specific niche, like when exactly like these peaks like line up exactly with the cyanobacteria bloom happening. All we know is that this figure is just really representing the fact that there was just so much more amount of water just flooding through this whole system that contributed to a lot of that fresh water that we saw through the salinity like being dropped in that whole system. And so this is just showing and highlighting the fact that there was so much more water coming to that system than typical.
There is time for one more question. No? Well, then we thank Benjamin again. And,